Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Hawks Latest, your number one source for news, updates, rumors, opinions, and you guessed it, the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. I'm your host, Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and today we've got a lot to talk about. So, EuroBasket 2025 is officially underway. We've already seen two Atlanta Hawks players take the floor for their respective countries. We've actually got our third one, Zachary Risacher, taking the floor shortly at 11 a.m. Eastern. So, right after y'all watch this video, go ahead and tune into that. I've got the links to watch in my Twitter, so y'all go ahead and be sure to tune into that. But on day one of the tournament, Vit Krejci and Kristaps Porzingis suited up for their respective countries, and it didn't go too well. Both of them definitely struggled, and actually both their teams lost. Czech Republic and Latvia both took L's on the first day, but it's no need to worry. They've got a full schedule of games ahead. So things happen. Teams lose. Players perform bad, but it's always a bounce back right after. So we're going to break that all down and talk about what went wrong. Also, Zachary Risacher is going to debut with France against Belgium at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to preview that matchup in just a few minutes. On top of all the international play and all the storylines that are going on there, there's also NBA roster movement that's brewing. I mean, that's always going on behind the scenes, and you never know, with how spontaneous this new regime of Anzi Soleil and the rest of the new front office, what they might be up to. And so the Dallas Mavericks are trying to offload Olivier Maxence Prosper in order to create cap space to bring in their vet Dante Exum. This could be a sneaky opportunity for the Hawks to get involved, so I'm not going to say too much on that right now. We're going to break it all down today. Vit struggles against Portugal, KP's tough night against Turkey, Risacher's French debut, and why Atlanta should monitor the Omax situation in Dallas. So without further ado, let's get right into it, waste no more time, and talk about how the EuroBasket stage is huge for role players specifically. Just getting the real ability to see them play to their full capabilities, in a situation where they might not be in the NBA. And it just shows the absolute talent that the league has and really why the league should expand. With injuries sidelining multiple Czech veterans, Vit Krejci, Atlanta's own, the bench player who averaged 7 points, 2 rebounds, 2 assists on 43% from beyond the arc last season, he's been thrust into a much bigger role than originally expected. That is not to be said lightly. Today he played his first game. Yesterday he played his first game of the tournament against Portugal, and while he led his team in scoring and did make an impact on both ends, the night was seriously a mixed bag overall. So Krejci did finish with a team high 10 points, and he's the main scorer, facilitator, everything for that team. So if Czech plays well in any of these games, it's going to be a pleasant surprise. I mean, not to dog on Vit because I believe in his capabilities as a player, but some of these rosters are absolutely stacked. And they're going against Vit Krejci and friends, pretty much. But he also had 4 rebounds, 3 assists, 3 turnovers, and 1 steal. So that assist turnover ratio is not ideal. 3 assists, 3 turnovers. And with Krejci, potentially being Atlanta's backup point guard next season, that's not exactly what you want to see. However, he got to the free throw line consistently. He knocked down all 5 of his attempts, but his efficiency just wasn't there from the floor in general. He shot 25% overall and 20% from deep. So not what you want to see by any means. But interestingly, all 10 of his points came in the second quarter. So he wasn't really consistently scoring all through the game, which it's impressive in a way, but also a little unimpressive just considering, the rest of the game. But it gave Czech a little bit of a momentum, heading into halftime, giving him a little bit of hope to win the game. But unfortunately, after the break, the team completely fell apart. Portugal outscored them decisively after the break, and Czech ended up losing 50-62 in what turned into a defensive slugfest. I mean, that's a score from like the 80s. That's you don't ever see basketball games 50-62 nowadays. I mean, maybe you'll see it occasionally in college hoops, but never at the professional level. So very interesting to see. The positive takeaway from Krejci for all this, and really just in his first game in general, was his defense. And that's been the real standout for all 3 of the Hawks that have been playing so far in the EuroBasket exhibitions. All 3 have looked like great defenders, and Krejci certainly looked like a good defender just yesterday. He pressured full court. He stayed active in the passing lanes. He looked comfortable as an on-ball defender. All of the things that make Vit a positive NBA defender. Offensively, though, the turnovers and the missed opportunities and missed shots, they all piled up and ended up in him having a pretty bad game. Still, though, for a Hawks team that's going to value versatility, and seeing Krejci step up as that primary option in a tournament like this is encouraging. And whether he plays well or not throughout the course of the tournament, I mean, if he continues to play poorly like this, these are still valuable reps. I mean, being a number one option is not something a role player in the NBA gets to experience a whole lot. So I mean, these are very valuable reps for Vit, and it's going to grow him as a player regardless of how he plays. So, but I don't want to be too negative because this is only game one, and with 4 more group stage games to play before the EuroBasket tournament, he's going to have so many chances to bounce back, and he's going to play in a couple days. So be sure to tune into that. Right now, it's clear that Krejci is going to have to be that engine for the Czech Republic if they want to advance out of their group. He's got a lot to prove, and I can't wait to see him progress over the course of the tournament. So the other Hawks player that was in action today was the newly acquired big man from the Boston Celtics, Kristaps Porzingis, making his EuroBasket debut in front of home fans in Latvia. And why this has a little bit of added pressure is that Latvia is actually one of the 4 host countries this year of the tournament. It adds extra pressure and pride for a guy like Porzingis trying to show out, because he has a lot to prove for Hawks fans and NBA fans in general. But that added element of playing in front of your home country, especially overseas like that, where there's a lot more passion at these events. It's a lot of pressure for a guy like KP, who's coming off of the worst postseason of his career. Unfortunately, though, things for KP did not go well in their first outing against Alperen Şengün in Turkey. Turkey has a pretty good squad. They got Alperen Şengün, they got Cedi Osman. I actually don't even know if Osman was on a roster last year, but he is an NBA veteran. Porzingis has looked excellent in the preseason exhibitions, the preliminary exhibitions that have been going on for the past few weeks that we've been covering here on this channel. He struggled mightily in this one. I mean, there's no other way to put it. This was a pretty bad performance from KP, and it was very similar to what he was doing in Boston's last postseason run, which ended pretty soon. He scored just 10 points and grabbed 4 rebounds, which doesn't sound too bad on paper, but he was 3 of 12 from the floor, including 0 of 5 shooting from beyond the arc. I mean, KP's special attribute is his deep ball shooting, and 0 for 5, certainly not good, and it contributed to the loss. Latvia ended up losing by 20, and as a whole, that team just couldn't find their rhythm offensively, and Turkey really controlled the game from start to finish. This one was never close. Pretty tough to see. I was watching from the beginning, and it wasn't a game, even in the first few minutes. The silver lining here for Hawks fans, though, is playing time. KP looks healthy. He logged a team-high 25 minutes. And you know what? We know what Kristaps Porzingis, the player, can do. But what we also know about him is that he has never been able to stay healthy in his career. And that is going to be the biggest thing that Atlanta needs from him, really. I mean, because, other than, even if we didn't acquire Kristaps Porzingis this past offseason, Atlanta would still be on a high trajectory, just with Onyeka Okongwu emerging and Jalen Johnson being back healthy and Dyson and Zach and the rest of the depth continuing to develop. They just need KP to stay healthy and play a adequate number of games. It's an important development because one of the biggest questions surrounding him is obviously durability and health. Between last postseason in Boston, which was really disappointing, not just for KP, but for Celtics fans in general, who are used to so much playoff success, he averaged just 7.7 points in that playoff run and 4.6 rebounds. Now, he was battling an illness, but, given his injury history in general, there's always going to be a bit of a concern there with KP. But, I mean, the fact that he is healthy enough to play extended minutes in the first EuroBasket game, which doesn't hold a lot of weight, it's very encouraging. He did so in every exhibition game leading up to EuroBasket. It's all very encouraging. Just the amount he's playing and what he's usually been doing on the stat sheet. Now, this past game was certainly an outlier. He hasn't played this bad all of the EuroBasket period, all summer, but nonetheless, it was still a pretty bad performance. It was just a bad shooting night. Every star has them. He also wasn't very good defensively. Şengün kind of had his way. There were several highlights of Şengün just cooking him in the post. This was an off game just in general for KP. But what matters most, though, is that KP is moving well. He's usually playing aggressive defense. We didn't see that yesterday, but he usually is. And he's taking on the responsibility of being Latvia's leader. I mean, they're one of the host countries. It's a big responsibility. It's very different from the NBA. And, I have overall been enjoying what I've been seeing from KP, but this was a really rough game. And so I don't think we should be worried whatsoever. I think he's going to bounce back. I mean, fans should expect that bounce back game when Latvia faces Estonia on Friday. So, I mean, we're going to be having games every single day, so there's always going to be something to talk about, which is great. But for Atlanta, seeing Porzingis on the court healthy and engaged, despite how he performs in this summer, is always a win. So, while Krejci and Porzingis are already underway in the group play stage of EuroBasket, the other guy that we have been looking forward to seeing in EuroBasket is Zachary Risacher. Him and France, they're going to take the floor today at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time against Belgium. So shortly after this video is uploaded, y'all will be able to go tune into that. And like I said, I post on X, and as I'm sure you all know, but that's where I'll have the link. So be sure to go ahead and follow that and tune in to what could be a very interesting game, because this could be Atlanta's real standout of EuroBasket. France enters EuroBasket as one of the favorites, and that comes as no surprise. Look at that roster. This year's roster is very different from, obviously, the Olympic team that took silver in Paris last summer. That was very entertaining. Shout out to the Olympics last year. That really held us over until the NBA season. But we have EuroBasket now, and that's almost as good. Not really. But Victor Wembanyama, Rudy Gobert, they were all on that Olympic roster. Evan Fournier, Nick Batum, they're all absent from the lineup in this year's EuroBasket. That comes as no surprise. That means a lot more responsibility will fall on the younger players, including last year's number 1 overall pick, Zachary Risacher, who was coming off of a very impressive rookie season with the Hawks, where he should have won Rookie of the Year, but he didn't. That went to Stephon Castle. But nonetheless, the interesting thing about Risacher's minutes here in EuroBasket is that he is going to be the focal point of the team. They've also got guys like Bilal Coulibaly, Grishan Yabusele, and Alex Sarr, but Risacher is that focal point. He's going to operate as a number 1 option, and that's going to be a very interesting thing to see Risacher operate as. So, I mean, in preseason exhibitions, he did look excellent. He most notably scored 14 points and grabbing 5 rebounds against Giannis Antetokounmpo in Greece, so very good performance there. But France went 5-0 in their exhibition schedule, and Risacher's ability to create offense looked a little better than what we saw in the season, and that's a very important part of his game that needs to grow if Atlanta wants to take that next step, considering that he is our starting small forward. So what makes this debut even more intriguing is that France's head coach, Frédéric Fados, is the same coach that Risacher had at JL Borg before he entered the NBA draft. So that familiarity should help Risacher shine. Knowing the system, as the two already have a very strong connection on how to maximize his skill set. This first game, I mean, Belgium, meanwhile, doesn't feature any NBA talent, so France should enter as heavy favorites. But the storyline is just going to be, let's watch how Risacher handles being the primary offensive option on the international stage. It's a bit more of a magnified situation than that of Krejci, but it's a similar situation when you think about these are guys that don't normally always have the ball in their hands, but they're going to on this stage. I mean, Risacher's expectations are a lot higher than Vit's, but Vit is more of an on-ball guy, while Risacher is much more of an off-ball guy. So just watching him operate as a number 1 option is going to be very entertaining. If he thrives here, it could give Hawks fans a glimpse into what the future holds when he becomes a central piece in Atlanta's system. And I mean, he already is a very important part of the roster, but just taking that next step as an offensive creator and just overall on-ball scorer is going to be fun to keep up with. So finally, let's break out of the EuroBasket talk and talk a little bit about NBA roster movement, because the Dallas Mavericks have been pretty active recently, and they may be creating an opportunity for GM Monty Soleil and the Atlanta Hawks to get involved. So according to Mark Stein of the Sideline, very credible reporter, he was the one who first reported the Kristaps Porzingis to Atlanta trade. He is saying that the Mavs are trying very hard to find a new home for Olivier Maxence Prosper in order to clear cap space for Dante Exum's 1-year deal. We all know NBA vet Dante Exum. I don't know why the Mavs are trying so hard to keep him. I don't really like his contributions in the year 2025, but nonetheless, this is what they're doing. So Dallas is hard capped at the second tax apron, and they need to shed some salary to make the numbers work, pretty much. Prosper, the 24th overall pick in the 2023 draft, hasn't really carved out a consistent role in Dallas. He's averaged 3.5 points, 2.2 rebounds across his first 2 seasons, shooting just 39% from the field and 26% from 3. So not impressive splits in any of those categories. So, but the thing is, he's still just 23 years old, and he's still a developmental piece. He's a project with some upside, but the Mavericks appear ready to move on. He doesn't really match their timeline. For Atlanta, this could be a sneaky smart move. I mean, the Hawks currently have they have an Exhibit 10 player in Caleb Houston, and these guys' situations sound a little familiar. Guys who didn't really blossom in the team, in the organization that drafted them, looking for a change of scenery. Maybe Atlanta sees himself getting involved in this. Why not take a flyer on a guy like Prosper and see if he can compete for that final roster spot? Him versus Houston in training camp would be really fun to watch. I mean, he's a young forward. He has defensive tools, and Dallas would likely have to attach a future second-round pick just to move him. So let's say the Hawks decide to trade a second-round pick for Olivier Maxence Prosper and a second-round pick. So basically just a second-round pick swap, but they're taking on Omax for free. I don't think it's a bad idea. The Hawks don't have to take that deal, but this is kind of a low-risk, high-reward move that makes sense for a team that's trying to balance win-now competitiveness and future development. I mean, I've said this already, but just watching Houston and Prosper battle it out for that last roster spot could give both that added motivation that they need really to, develop into the players that they could become. They're both forwards with real rotation potential, but it just hasn't come together really in the NBA. Houston's proved a little more, which is why the Hawks would probably lean Houston and probably not do this deal. But it is an interesting thing to consider, as they like taking flyers on guys like this. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. So to recap, Vit Krejci and the Czech Republic dropped their opener to Portugal despite Krejci's defensive intensity, but rough offensive performance. KP and Latvia had a rough night against Turkey, but KP's health looks solid, and that's the most important thing we're looking forward to because the numbers are going to be there even next game. Zachary, Risacher, and France make their debut later today against Belgium at 11 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to tune into that. And on the NBA front, Atlanta should absolutely be monitoring Dallas's efforts to move Olivier Maxence Prosper Omax. So that's going to be all for today's episode of Hawks Latest. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Zach Langley. If you guys like the video, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss a single update here on Hawks Latest. We're going to be pumping out videos every single day, keeping you guys informed on the latest and the greatest regarding the Atlanta Hawks. With EuroBasket going on right now, there's a lot to talk about. So once again, thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Zach Langley, aka Langley ATL, and I'll see you guys next time.